This isn't recording, are we? Like, what the fuck?
You want to check the shot?
I gotta tell you, it's an experience. Your voice is, it's deep but soothing.
Mine?
Yes.
No, get out of here. You're crazy. This is how you get them girls.
You just have to tell them you're funny. The first lie is the most important one. As a broadcast journalist, I've spent my life traveling the world and made my living interviewing the greatest fighters of all time. When boxing shut down, I finally had a chance to look around this world of conflict and could see the fight in everyone. Until this day, I talk to the greatest fighters and thinkers of our time about their fight. On Luminary, I'm Radio Rahim. Till this day. In the ring, if you're not prepared, you won't survive. Our guest prepared himself on the streets in New York, from selling t-shirts to open mics to hustling his way into network television. Like the best fighters in the world, the bell rings for him on Saturday night. Michael Che. Chapter 1, Unpaid in Full.
We was from the project. We was from public housing my whole life until about, well, my family generations. My grandparents is from the projects, that my brother's from the projects, from...
See, that's a very New York thing. Like, you're in your borough, in your projects, and that's... So even though it is a housing project and thought of as poverty, it's also heritage. Yes. You have generations that go back in this area.
Well, that's why I get annoyed when people talk about the hood or talk about, public housing, where they're like, I don't like saying hood because, it got that kind of connotation of pride of being from this certain area. But there is a certain pride of community, and there is a certain pride of a shared experience. And the worst of the experience is the closer the bond. So when people say stuff like, "Oh man, you motherfuckers won't, why you gotta get out the hood? Why they still in the hood?" And it's like, yo, this is home to people. This is where your mother's from. This is where your family's from. This is where you get love. This is where you see somebody and they give you a fucking genuine hug because they saw you as a little boy. Like, they think since it's moneyless, it's loveless,
Right.
Which sucks. It's nothing like growing up in a place where they know your whole story, especially for black people, because we don't have a country that we could just point to. I watch The Godfather and they go back to Sicily, you know what I mean? We don't have that. We go about 3 generations back maybe. But after your great-grandfather, you don't know shit.
And we don't want to do that.
And we don't,
nobody's trying to figure out which plantation we landed on.
But I'm saying even before that, there's people who know where their family was 700, 1,000 years ago.
Right, but for us to get to that part, you have to go through the slavery, the plantation,
it's
all that
ugly
shit.
Story.
And it stops us.
Yeah.
There's some shame involved in that. There's still anger involved in that. You don't want to identify with this slave master, this white man's name, and with all this shit.
Escaping from Shawshank. You gotta go through a lot of shit.
Now, New York being so borough-clad, did you have friends from Queens and Brooklyn and Bronx?
Not really. When I was growing up, I didn't know too many borough kids. The only way we knew borough kids was there was a shelter in our community called New Life, and it was one of them things where you met a lot of people from different boroughs. And also in the projects, people, they switch, they move you sometimes, you know what I mean? So like there'd be people from Brooklyn in the projects now, people from Queens or whatever, and that's how you kind of got to meet kids from all over the place. But it was still sort of insulated.
Is there a division, though, between those different areas of New York?
Of course, if you don't travel to places, you're always gonna have misconceptions. So you're always gonna think the stereotype, that's Brooklyn nigga shit, or that's Harlem nigga shit. You always think, Brooklyn niggas is stick-up kids, Harlem niggas is flashy drug dealers. Lower East Side is kind of a hybrid or weird, artsy, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Queens niggas is fly niggas, but whatever it is, like you'll kind of always know what everybody's stereotype is.
Right.
But unless you're there, you realize, they just regular. Instead of Brooklyn, they do steal. they do rob. But yeah, that was always kind of like, there's always that misconception. Like I'm sure in the Bay it's the same thing when you're like, these niggas is that.
You grew up in a household with a lot of people. So that kind of adjustment, see, I'm an only child. So it fascinates me, people with siblings, but a lot of siblings.
I'm the youngest of 7.
What's that like?
Well, being the youngest of 7 is kind of like being an only child, too, because essentially I was the only child. You know what I mean? And it's like you kind of live in a land of giants where all of my siblings are like 7, 8 years older than me, 10 years older than me. My oldest brother is 15 years older than me. So I felt like an only child, but with all these, just around teenagers, being raised by teenagers.
Wow. That actually is a really unique experience. It's almost like you have 9 parents.
Yeah. It kind of is. It's like it's a weird thing. You saw a lot before maybe a lot of other kids.
Did they have a lot of influence over you?
Tons. But I saw also why it taught me kind of how to be an adult, too, because if you have to be with them all the time, you kind of have to learn how to conduct yourself where they want to bring you or where they don't mind bringing you. They don't never want to bring you, but you know what I mean? Like where they don't mind bringing you. So you kind of had to mature a little bit quicker. Like I did everything faster than them, I think, because I was raised by them. So like I learned how to talk really fast. I learned how to walk really fast. I learned how to do everything, read really fast, just because I was with them all the time. And you'd kind of have to. I'll talk about, like my music history goes back to 80s hip hop. And a lot of kids my age be like, what the fuck? The first rap record I ever listened to was Wu-Tang. You know, you're like, how? Like, you don't remember Dougie Fresh? You don't remember Slick Rick? But they don't remember that because they was 4 or 3 or whatever. And I remember all the words, you know, because I was always with them who were teenagers at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, nobody in my class was bumping Patti LaBelle either. But
no.
My mom's shit, I was like, oh, this slaps.
Right. I knew we were poor, but I didn't know how poor because there was kids way poorer. There was a shelter down the block, and that was like the poor kids. I didn't know that we was a paycheck away from being in the shelter. I didn't know that. I just thought we were kind of upper class for that class.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I started going to school and started meeting kids with money, and I remember one year in high school, I was hanging out with this girl, sort of dating this girl. I was at her house. She was telling me that she was leaving the country like the next day. It was like the last party or whatever of the year. She was like, yeah, I'm leaving the country for a while. Like my parents are taking me. And I'm like, what? So your parents are like rich? And she's like, no, we just save up every year and we go to a different country every year as a family vacation. And I'm like, it took her so long to explain that that's what people would do. Like you could be that. I thought you was either poor or you was rich. So when I got older and I started seeing the different types of experiences other kids had, that's when I started to kind of evaluate what my experience was. Like, damn, how come we never went on vacation? Or how come we never did certain things? Then you're like, oh, man, was we really poor? Or were we uneducated in that way? Or were we just not hip? But I didn't know I was even missing it.
And once you realized you were missing it, did you start to aspire to it?
Sorta. I kind of still didn't have the self-esteem to. I still kind of thought, maybe everything happens for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to be in this position. You kind of don't aspire to stuff because you always just feel like, if I don't get it, I'll be disappointed. I don't think I've ever just paid for a dope vacation in my life, ever. It was always work-related or, like, going to do something.
Those are, like, 2 real hood mentalities coming to fruition. You start to take pride in the hood and be like, well, maybe this is where I belong. This is where I fit. I understand this. Generations of families have existed this way. And we're not shelter poor. But then there's once you realize that there's something else to aspire to, you start working. Yeah. You don't want to leave work to go take some kind of luxurious, indulgent time for yourself.
Maybe it's a little bit, too, of, like, survivor guilt of, I get to do this for a living. This is my vacation. You know, like, I've got it. I don't need vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do this. Or vacation from what?
Fair.
That's my thinking. It's definitely not true. But it is, like, that's kind of my thinking. It's like, I'm going to tell, somebody that worked 70 hours, you know what I mean, to live a certain way, and I gotta wake up at noon to do radio's podcast. Like, you know what I'm saying? I need a break. I really do. I'm stressed. It's like, no, it's just like, I'm lucky, man. This is like, I get to do this, so part of me is kind of hard for me to treat myself with something like that just because I'm like, man, your life is good. You don't need that.
But couching it as luck even is a way to dismantle or diffuse that survivor's guilt, or like you're including other people's hard work, like a 9 to 5 or 5 days a week doing something that you wouldn't want to do as harder work than what you do. But what you do is almost impossible to get to do because it takes such hard work to get there.
You do therapy? I'm start talking to you once a week now. No, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I don't know at what point.
Yeah.
Well, did you ever have that? Was that ever? I guess you already grew up with those experiences anyway because you traveled as a kid.
I traveled as a kid, but the knock is we weren't rich, and so we were doing good. We weren't hood good. We were doing like working class good, and that was unusual because I have a single mom, no father in the home. But I'm an only child, and so it was based on my mother's drive and her ability to keep a household, and I can give her credit because I don't remember a time in my life when I felt so confused about the world that I felt unsafe or I couldn't figure out how to get home from school on my own without getting in a car with candy. So maybe we were both fortunate in that way. Like you had a kid that was a little bit up on it.
I definitely almost got into a car with candy. My cousin saved me.
Well, okay. I'm gonna need to hear this one.
No, honestly, swear to God, I almost got into a car with candy. We was hanging out at the bodega because that's just what you do. We didn't have no money. We were just hanging out, and it was just me and my 3 cousins. We were all pretty much the same age. You know my cousin Justin?
Yes.
I shouldn't say, you know my cousin Jasper. Yes. It was me, his brothers and sisters. And we all grew up like siblings because we was all the same age. His father's my mother's brother. They had the candy store right across the street from the project. And we was in there, and this crackhead lady comes in, and this is a fucked up story. She's like, hey,
get whatever you want and come with me. Your mother wants me to take y'all.
Oh, shit.
And we was like, get whatever we want. Like, we was hanging out in the kids. Like, all right, bet. We were getting like the 50-cent chips, like not even the quarter chips. We getting the 50-cent. We getting the New York Deli, the Doritos, like the real shit, not the Bonton. We was getting Snapples, and she's like,
yeah, get cook whatever you want. Just get it. We gotta hurry up.
My cousin's like,
who's our mother? We don't got the same mother. Whose mother?
And she's like, just come on, you gonna get in trouble. Like, she's like, they're having a screaming match. Now, mind you, my cousin's like 3 years older than us. So we're like 8, she's like 11. So she's kind of hipper. But we like, you are fucking up the candy. We about to, like, what are you talking about? And so she's yelling at this lady. This lady gets so flustered. She's like double questioning her. She gets so flustered. She's just like, just forget it. And goes back in a van, literally like a cartoon Scooby-Doo van.
Wow.
Slams the door in the van and they just peel off. And we just sitting there with all this candy unpaid for, like, you hater. Like, but in our heads, you know what it is though too? It wasn't even so much that we thought she was telling the truth. Yeah. It was more so we thought, what's the worst that could happen? We just jumped this bitch. Like, she can't beat us. Like, but because when you're a kid, you don't know that you're a kid. You really think you grown until you're grown and see somebody your age back then. And you're like, oh my God, we shouldn't even been at the store by ourselves. I think of like nieces and nephews that's 8 years old and thinking of them just hanging out at a store in the fucking 90s, 80s. Like, what the fuck? That's insane. But back then, we was just like, what the fuck? What's she gonna do? She can't. You know what I mean? If she do that, we could get out the van. I'm pretty sure she ain't gonna get all of us.
But you don't know what the fuck is in the van.
No idea. No idea.
Ooh,
it's scary now when you think about it. But when I was a kid, we was like, man, you know how much fucking candy we could have got for that shit. It's horrifying though, and I got a beating for that too because I had the candy. I got something, and cousin fucking snitched. She snitched on me from her father. She told her father, and he's yelling at us, telling us how bad that was. As he's yelling, I'm eating the candy. And he's like, you got that candy? And smacked me. That was like the first time he ever really hit me, so I got a beating for that. That's something where, like I said, when you're a kid, you don't know you're in danger until you grow up and you realize you was in danger. Just like you don't know you're fortunate. I talk to kids that was rich their whole life, and they tell me stories casually that you're like, what? Like, you had what? And they're like, no, what? Everybody didn't have a fucking dinner with Mick Jagger? You're like, no, nigga, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, it's that kind of thing.
I had a lot of friends, and I would go to their homes and understand very early, oh, they live like this.
Yeah.
Like, they go to Toys R Us every Saturday. Like,
yeah,
you know
they
what I
got
mean?
the name brand cereal and all of that.
This kind of thing, yeah. And so I started to craft my experiences based on other people's environments.
Right. That's what we all do, though. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we all do. Like, my cousins, they had, like I said, they lived in the project. They lived next to us, and they would have all the shit that I would see on Saturday morning commercials.
Yeah.
So, like, I would see, like, the Dannon yogurts, and they would have Dannon yogurt. I'm like, these motherfuckers are filthy. They got yogurt, like the candy cereal, like the Tricks and all of that shit. Like, we used to get the welfare cereal or the cornflakes, or, like, we get that type of shit. But they had cookies and fudge stripes, and you're like, what the fuck? These guys is rich. Fruit snacks. Like, they had all of that. So I thought that was wealth. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that, that's $20 more in the grocery bill. Like, they're right there. And this shit could go either way.
But boy, them colors, a toy in the bottom of the box?
Yeah, you're like, come on, man. These guys is living it. Just give me that. When I started meeting other kids, and for the reasons I thought they were special, I realized they weren't. They were just kids. When I started realizing I was the same was when I started realizing that, I should be special then. Because there's a lot of low self-esteem that you don't even know, kind of always taught to think you're a criminal, kind of taught to think you're supposed to be, just that black shit, you know what I mean? Just that poor shit. So you always kind of have that. Even if you never really understand it, you always kind of have that. Like, man, if I go to somebody's house, I want to almost make sure that they know I didn't steal nothing. You know what I mean? Like, that's just still in my stomach sometimes. Like, I want people to not be afraid of me. I want people to not be ashamed of me or whatever it is. And then when I started meeting kids from different backgrounds that I thought never had those problems, and then you hang out with them and you realize, oh, this motherfucker, his family's rich and he's not smarter than me. He just take tests good. Oh, he just do his homework. He read that book and that's why he's smart. Like, all of that. Mm-hmm. Oh, he gets scared around girls too. Oh, this motherfucker, she likes me more than she likes him. That kind of thing. When you start learning that part of it, then your confidence is like, so I'm not crazy. So I could be special if I really, really try, because this motherfucker ain't that special, and people think he's special. I could do that. Then when you find that passion, the whole time you're trying to figure out what's the outlet. Because you always feel like you got something to say. Me personally, I felt like I had something to say. I felt like the things that I was thinking people would want to hear once I started talking to my friends and my peers, and they were like, I could hold court. When you have that power with your peers, you're like, maybe I got something, because not everybody could do this.
How did you end up in a performing arts high school?
For fine art.
Yeah, but how did you?
First of all, it was high school, so I wanted to go there because it was performing arts high school. So it was 6-to-1 girl to boy ratio. My sister went there. My sister went there back in the 80s. My brother wanted to go but didn't get in. So that high school is legendary in New York City. Everybody knows about LaGuardia because it's like all the pretty, talented girls is going there. So you want to go to LaGuardia. I don't care what the fuck. You see thug niggas in tap shoes online waiting to audition to, you know what I mean? Like, that was the shit. We had a dance program. We had, you know what I mean? Exactly. See how your eyes just lit up? So when I was a kid, I could draw a little bit. And I was like, I want to go to LaGuardia. And it was free. So my parents was like, that's a good school that we don't have to pay for. Perfect. And I auditioned, and I got in somehow. I think it's a lot easier to get in for art, honestly.
What's the audition like?
The audition is, first of all, you need a portfolio of a bunch of drawings that you did. Then you take a drawing test, like on the spot, to make sure that you drew that shit. And then there's an interview, like a job interview. And you're talking to these people, why you want to be in the school, what do you want to do? What
were you doing this at 12? 13?
14.
Okay.
14.
Did you have any friends that...
I didn't know anybody.
How many of your friends auditioned, though? Sent in some kind of... None.
I didn't know anybody.
I don't know if this is the first time, but this is a defining moment where you're saying, I want to go do something outside of my community outside the hood that none of my friends are going to be coming to do with me. I want to do something special. I want to be someplace else. You're reaching for something at that point. Is it not just about the women, right? Like, did you think, well, I can draw a little bit and I can develop that?
It was never art because I didn't know that you could be an artist. Another part of the reason was at the time, my mother lived in Jersey. Like I said, we lived in Jersey City at the time.
Right.
So I was like, Jersey City's school system is horrendous. I was like an A student just from memory because their curriculum was so far behind New York's curriculum. It was fucked up. It was like when I realized the difference between Manhattan and other cities.
Right.
And it's not their kids' fault. The kids is just as smart. The kids are just as capable. It's just they was getting the lunches look like jail food. Like it was wildly different. I don't know if it was because it's a black neighborhood or if it's a financial thing, but when I saw the way that public school was compared to the public school I went to in Manhattan, I was like, oh shit, this looked like jail.
You left the projects, went to Jersey, was like, oh, these niggas are poor.
These niggas, but it wasn't, it's like poor, the city's poor.
Right. A poor quality of life, not necessarily economically more challenged.
Yes, I was in an apartment that I thought was like, this is the nicest shit I've ever seen. Then I get to the schools and then you start to see the infrastructure, you start to see what the buses is like, and you start to see you're like, oh, this is the hood. This is the hood. That's still Manhattan. This is like, the fuck, there ain't nothing here. It made me like not like the system or not trust the system and think this is all bullshit.
And I deserve better.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess. But, I guess maybe it's even earlier than I thought then. But I wasn't conscious of it until about junior year in high school, senior year in high school.
Everybody knows when you get knocked down, you have to get up. But what if you quit? Chapter 2, A Dream Deferred. You were good enough with your drawing to get into the school.
Yeah.
Did you keep up with the drawing?
I did. I used to paint a lot because I liked to paint, but I was not that good. But I just liked doing it, and I could do it, and like not a lot of people, niggas in the hood that do fine art, at that point at least. So I could do it, and it was kind of a unicorn for being the kid that painted. You know, like, oh, you can paint? Like, you know what I mean? Yo, you do this portrait for me? Like, it was like that type of shit. But I knew it wasn't it. I also knew that they didn't know. You know what I mean?
It wasn't your passion.
No, it wasn't my passion.
But you were good enough at it.
But I was good enough that I could fake it.
Where does painting and drawing become designing?
Designing? Oh, man. Motherfuckers didn't understand art. So they just thought, if you could paint, you could draw. And if you could draw, you should be designing. Like, it was like, always, how you going to turn this into money? I don't need to paint it. I'll get a T-shirt. Like, that's how that became that. So it was easier to sell a picture on a T-shirt than it was to sell a picture on canvas to motherfuckers. So it just becomes quick currency. Because you're thinking, sure, I'm not thinking I'm only going to do these big pieces and kind of just get better and better until these paintings are worth something and build the worth. I was like, how do I get money right now? Because I am poor, and this is the difference between me eating now and not. I would just take the pictures, put them on T-shirts. I would put them in like a fucking duffel bag or trash bag. I had a little folding table. I would set up on Prince Street and Worcester and just sit there and just put the T-shirts on the table, and people would walk by. Sometimes it'd be like famous people. Sometimes it'd be just motherfuckers who just like fly shit, and they would buy it. I make like sometimes $500 in a day. Sometimes I make $40 in a day. Sometimes I make $1,000 in a day. Like, you never really know. I started doing that all the time, 4 days a week. Thursdays to Sunday, you can make some money vending on the streets. And I would truck that shit from Jersey City. I had like a hand car. I would take it on like 2 trains and a bus from Jersey City back and forth. And that was my incentive to sell more, was I don't have to carry this shit back. I didn't have a car. And I would do it, and you would get these real, real good highs of, you know, somebody would come and buy shirts. Like Conan O'Brien bought a shirt, and I was like freaking out, or like Billy Crystal or Russell Simmons. Like, you know, because this is the village. So everybody's out there. So I met Tommy Hilfiger that way. I met his son, actually, first. And his son was like,
man, I like your stuff. Could you, do these custom things for me?
and I was like, yeah, I could do that. I made the customs, and he bought more. He came back like the next week. He's like,
I want to bring my dad.
but I didn't know who his dad was. And he's like,
I'm going to bring my dad. Whatever.
And I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I don't give, white kids don't even tell you who their dad is.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, we have,
my dad is Tommy Hilfiger. We live around the corner.
And I was like, what? And he's like,
Yeah, my dad.
Brings his dad. And his dad's like,
I love this. Could you come to the house?
what? Literally, I swear to God. So I'm like,
Yeah, I guess.
so they was working on this offshoot brand. And it was like, they want me to help with it. And I'm like,
I don't know nothing about design, and I just paint.
and I'll transfer a picture on a shirt and sell it. Like, I was like, but I'm not going to say no because there's opportunity. Go to his house. He's got this beautiful fucking mansion house. I'd never seen this before. He had like Warhols and, like art. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. And I've never seen anything like that. It's the first time I've ever been in anything like that. And he was so nice to me. And he was like, I want you to come to my studio. I want you to come to my studio Monday. It was weird because I go to his office and I'm thinking, he's gonna show me around, somebody's gonna show me around or whatever. They take me to Tommy's office. Tommy takes me to every single department and he's like, this is Michael Che. He's gonna be a star. And all of this shit, like all his, to every single department by hand, like literally walking me. And he's showing me the whole fucking production. He sets me up with like a workstation area. He's like, anything you want to learn, let me know. We'll get you classes. But, gives me money out of his pocket. He's just like, work on designs or whatever. Or just like, whatever. Do what you want to come up with. And I'm like, the fuck is happening? This is like in a span of 2 days. And so I'm working at the studio. And that was also like the first time where I was like, I don't think I can do this. But there's something about me that is putting me in a position to get lucky sometimes. You know what I mean? Maybe I should try. Like, there was something there that I was like, this isn't what I want to do, but I feel like I'm getting this off of osmosis of what I should be doing.
There's some element that got me here.
Yeah.
That isn't the thing I'm doing.
Yes.
But that's the thing I should be doing that could get me everywhere.
Yes. That was the feeling. And that's what scared me. It was like a shock, like a, whoa, what was that? You know what I mean? But I want to learn more about this.
Yeah, and mind you, at this time, Tommy Hilfiger is the shit.
Tommy Hilfiger is the shit.
Everybody's wearing.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
So what stops you? You're in the door. I mean, in the door. Tommy Tommy Hilfiger
yes.
is walking around saying, this guy's a star.
It's like a sitcom, a made-for-TV movie kind of thing. Like, I'm going to be discovered on the streets and some big designer's going to say, you're going to work for me, kid. Like, literally, it's that. I'd be the most famous person in my family if the story ended there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, ever.
How do you walk away from this?
Fear. I was literally working there and I couldn't come up with nothing because I was under the gun to perform. And Tommy Hilfiger said, I'm like, what if it sucks? This is fucking awkward. I don't even know how to work on a computer. I like to work with glue. I didn't even own a computer at the time. So I'm sitting at this desk. I'm like, I don't know what to fucking do. And so I told the manager kind of person, I was like, hey, can I work at home? Like, I don't know how to work in this office setting. I'm not a designer, I'm a painter. And she was like, yeah, you could just work at home, just, bring stuff. I went home and started working from home. Still couldn't come up with nothing. I'm scared. I'm like, man, what if it sucks? What if it's like, what is I'm working on? It's good, just finish it. Under the gun for it. Stopped sending them stuff. Got too scared. Well, it's been a week. If I call them now, they're going to be mad at me. It's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I just blew it.
You just stopped going to work?
I just stopped going. Stop fucking going.
Wow. When did you realize, well, I don't work there anymore?
Just now when you said it. And then you're embarrassed, and then people ask you, hey, how'd that Tommy Hilfiger thing is going? You still there? I'm like, yeah, sure I am. I don't even know how to fuck. I was so embarrassing. So then I was like, well, I got to do something because now I might have fucked that up, but I don't want motherfuckers to think that I've fucked it up. Mm-hmm. So I started just making sure, and I was like, I can't sell it on the street anymore. I'm going to go to stores. So I started putting them in like these boutiques like Union. And I had these shirts, and Lady Marianne was so nice to me. And she was like, these is dope. Like, how much you want from them? So I started selling to her, like, wholesale. And then I started selling them in other stores. Because if it was in Union, that was like the equivalent of doing the Tonight Show, and now you could do clubs. Right. Because they're like, whoa, like that's like a credit.
Right.
So I started doing it at Union, but with Union, you can't sell it everywhere because it's in Union as a kind of catch-22. You can't mass produce it for real because then they're not going to want to carry it. So you kind of only had to do it in the hip spots or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then all of that shit cost money, and I wasn't a business dude where I knew, all right, I'm going to flip it this way and that way. So we did a trade show. And we got like these orders in Japan, and I made these orders, and it was just such the grind of chasing the dollar. Like, you made $3,000, but now you got to flip it. It was so exhausting that I just threw my hands up. And I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. I got to buy, because I didn't really like doing it in the first place. I was only doing it because I thought this was what I had to do.
Right.
This was my shot.
Well, now you say fear and you fucked it up, but in the moment, did even that feel like failure? Or
Yeah. Depression. I blew my fucking shot. This was so easy. It was handed to me, and I fumbled.
And where did you seek counsel? How do you,
I couldn't even, there was no counsel because I couldn't even tell people what really happened. I couldn't even tell everybody all the details because it was fucking embarrassing. Because I'm telling motherfuckers who's working 9 to 5, yeah, that happened, and I just stopped showing up. Niggas is like, what? I think like 2 people I would talk to, like, kinda, and they would just be like, you good, just keep going. But everybody thought you still could do it, but I'm just like, man, I'm embarrassed. I was more embarrassed. Right. Because you fucking, all this time, you're like, I'm special, I could do something, and then you get the opportunity and you don't. Oh, my God. Now, so you're not, maybe. Maybe you're not special. That's why I did comedy, because I was like, well, I got about a year or 6 months before I'm going to just be a square. So let me try. Let's just throw everything to the fucking wall. Anything I ever wanted to try, we going to fucking do it. Everything. We're going to do it. And I was like, let's try comedy. Because I've always wanted to try it. Let's fucking try it. I don't really got a job. I got like $2,000 in the bank that's going to last me this year. You know what I mean? Like, it was like that kind of thing. So I tried comedy. I did an open mic. And immediately off stage, I Googled another open mic to do another open mic. Like, I was hooked. And then I was doing like between 5 and 6 open mics a night in New York. And every single day. But it was because I was trying to get the taste out of my mouth from failing. So
when you leave the Tommy Hilfiger gig and them not knowing exactly how that happened, the people who you come up with, your family you grew up with, who probably want the best for you, but are seeing you appear to be winning and then quitting, what is their reaction to this?
They didn't know because I wasn't really in touch with them about it. Even now, to this day, when I'm working on something, I don't talk about it with everybody. I'm very, very private when it comes to shit like that. Like, they'll know certain things, but I don't like to tell people because, for one, I'm always afraid it ain't gonna work out, and then I gotta explain why, like that Tommy Hilfiger shit. So, like, in the back of my head, I kind of like don't like to talk about it. And also, too, it's just like ain't nothing to talk about because the more you talk about something, a lot of times, for me, the more I talk about it, the less likely it'll get done. By the time it's get ready for me to do it, I'm like, I don't really want to do it because I kind of already got all of the adulation that I wanted from, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Now I don't even care about doing it. I got to kind of keep it close to the vest, do it, and then I could talk about it. Or then then I'd be like, I'm doing something else. You know what I mean now? But it's like, that's the only way to kind of keep me. Because there's like, I don't know if it's endorphins or what, but like there's something that kind of comes out of you when you start explaining your plans and telling your plans, that by the time it's time to do those plans, you put it off because you feel like you've already done it.
This time, until this day, Michael Che climbs to the top of one mountain and finds himself at the bottom of the next. Chapter 3. We reach. When do you see for yourself that the beaten path is not for me?
Totally.
I'm looking to do something special.
Yes.
Now, no matter what anybody says, you have to admit that you think of yourself as special.
Totally.
Before you make that step into the unknown.
I'll admit that. There is a level of, dare I say, delusion. Not even confidence. Dare I say delusion that I'm like, I should be doing this. Fuck that. But the trick is that you think like that, but even once you've done it, you're like, I haven't done it yet. This ain't it.
When you hit that open mic and you feel like maybe this is one of my last opportunities because I'm 6 months away from, let me get that factory job and put this application in.
Yeah.
Is it the fear of the other reality that's driving you, or is it passion for stand-up?
When I first did it, I was in love. It was all I wanted to do. Everything else just went away. It was just like, I love this. You know what I mean? I love the feeling. I loved it. I found my best friend. It was that kind of feeling. And then I took it seriously because I was like, now, remember the last thing? It justified not doing that other stuff. Because I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I got to take this serious, and I can't fuck this up. But I didn't want to fuck it up. So I didn't even really have to tell myself not to fuck it up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Was it the same experience for the audience?
No. God, no. It took I got pretty good at it pretty quickly. Good relatively. Good as far as amongst my peers that was doing it for the same amount of time. But I think I just liked it more than they did. You find a lot of motherfuckers are doing this for the same reason I was doing that. Trying to make friends, they trying to get connected, they trying to go outside or whatever the fuck. Like, there's a lot of reasons why motherfuckers is in this space that ain't 100% committed why I'm doing it and why the motherfuckers that I think are the best are doing it.
How long did it take for you to be accepted or feel accepted by that class of comic?
The black ones or the white ones?
Which came first?
White ones for sure. Black ones are very competitive. It's like a couple years, like 2 or 3 years, I started kind of getting a lot of love.
What's the difference between the black ones and the white ones? This is not a setup for a
black ones is always the black ones is always 15 minutes late. No, the black ones is, we know each other on a deeper level, so we're a little bit more skeptical of each other. Initially, you're like, what's this nigga about? What's he trying to do? You know what I mean? Like, it's always that. When they start to get to know you, then they're like, oh, all right, you all right. But initially, it's always that kind of hesitance. Except Dave. Dave's the only one that was never hesitant with me. But Dave's like a community guy, so he don't really hate on nobody initially.
Right.
You gotta earn.
You gotta earn that hate.
You gotta earn the hate.
How did you stay off the black? I don't know, Chitlin circuit for...
I got everything quick. So there was a lot of grind that I didn't go through that's probably why sometimes they may be skeptical because they're like, I had to do that for like 6 to 8 months or whatever, and then I was like on TV. And I didn't have to do that.
So then the white comics, how did you gain acceptance and why was that so much quicker?
Because I don't think they looked at me as a threat in the same way.
Whites not looking at you as a threat?
No, because... they know it's not going to be down to me or them. Niggas know there's going to be one nigga. And they like, man, every spot that I get is a spot that they should have. White boys don't look at it like that. So older niggas is like, you trying to take my shit. And younger niggas is like, man, I should be having, you know what I mean? It's always going to be competitive. The most secure artists don't care about it because they're not competitive with anybody because they're not going against anybody. They're playing their own game. They're playing golf. They play in the field. And they just end up with the highest score because they're the best. But at my level, when we're all racing for the scrap, we know if there's going to be a list of the 10 best comics, there's going to be one blackface. And if it's me, then it ain't you. It's so fucking hard for us, even in show business, when we the best at show business, but like it's still kind of only 1 or 2 slots for us. I got SNL pretty much by happenstance. Like, I was at a show with Jost. He saw me. He was like, yo, you should write on the show. You want to be a guest writer? And I was like, yeah, I could do it, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to really write sketches. I never wrote sketches before that. He was like, yeah, just come in. Like, we just try to get funny people in the room and see. He's like, Jost believed in me in that way. And then I went in and got the job.
It would seem like SNL would be such an unlikely place for you to...
Impossible.
to conquer. And all the guys that you're talking about, not every single one of them, but most of them would love to have a gig on Saturday Night Live, would love to have that kind of platform and regular pay. And
because they know that at SNL, there's probably going to be one or two.
Right.
And it's like, that's coveted. When I first got to SNL, I was the only black writer.
And you're the
only black writer.
First to have head writer in your title.
I'm the first to be head writer, but I was the only black writer there.
All right, so
you know what I mean? Like, do you know what it is to be the only black writer in a show?
No, what does that mean? Not just to be the only black writer on a show.
The shorthand. So the way most TV shows work is if you write a sketch, we have a table read. We all, read the fucking, it's everybody that works at the show, the cast, the writers, the staff, or whatever. When you're the only black guy and you write some shorthand black shit.
What do you guys think of this joke?
And nobody gets it because they're not black. Like they don't even know what that word is. They don't know what that means. They don't know.
I don't get it.
If there's no black faces in the room that could register it, then it doesn't even sound like a joke.
Huh?
So you have to learn how to write in the cadence for the people that are in the room so that they get the joke. And that when it's on TV, it doesn't feel too whitewashed. So there's a balance. Now there's a lot more black and there's a lot more color and there's a lot more culture in that room. I'm talking, this is 10 years ago probably. But I'm saying like we watch SNL now, there's a lot more nuance than there would have been 10 years ago. Does this make sense?
Yeah, there's a language now.
There's a language. Oh, we got it.
It sounded like gibberish before.
That sounded like straight up gibberish before.
The pressure of performing there and succeeding there
didn't think about that.
It's still now you must.
Once you get that press and fuck, this is what they hate this. You get that part of it. That's when you start to feel it and you start to understand what it is. But then you're an artist. You're like, that's when you start to learn. You know what? I'm gonna get better at this, or I'm gonna learn how to do this, or fuck that. You know what I mean? And you get prideful and then you work at it and that's the job. But initially, you're just like, this is a dream. I'll get coffee if they ask me to when you're coming in. That's your thought. I didn't know I was going to be writing sketches when I first got there. I thought I was literally going to be just like an intern or like, sitting around or maybe I'll pitch a joke or two. I didn't know I was writing sketches. I was like asked to write sketches. I don't even know Lauren. Like this is just, I only know Colin. You know what I'm saying? Like I met Jay Farrell, I knew Jay Farrell a little bit. But that was really the only people I knew in the building.
What was the first sketch you wrote?
Oh, man. The first sketch I wrote or that got on TV?
That got on TV.
Oh, fuck. My second, this is rough. This was a long time ago. But the first sketch I got on TV was like this romantic comedy trailer called She's Got a Dick. And it was about, it was this romantic, it was just about this lady who had a dick that Justin Timberlake fell in love with. Yeah, you can't do that now, but it was fun for the time. It was fun for the time. 2013 was a wild time, I guess. But that was the first sketch I got on, and I think, shit, I wish you didn't ask me that, man. Motherfuckers gonna be. It was funny at the time. It's not funny no more, I guess. God, I really wish I didn't say. Yeah. No, but
evolving on a show like SNL that's, that speaks to the social environment. Like SNL episodes are a snapshot of what's going on any given week in this country. So any episode I watch of SNL, your bit that I see you on is going to let me know when exactly that week was. It's a week in review in history.
I also, too, in the booking, too, as well. Like, we do that with sometimes we'll just look at old shows and just see who the host in music is. And you're like, oh, I know what year that was. Like, one of our favorites is Tom Arnold and Tupac. And I'm like, well, that's 1995 like a motherfucker, ain't it? Like, there can't be more 1995 than that. I also want to say, working at SNL, this is not just like the PC answer. Like, working at SNL is literally Harvard for comedy production. Because you learn how to write, you learn how to produce, you learn how to rewrite, you learn how to work with the biggest stars in the world. You have to be able to give notes to the rock. You're literally on everything. When you write a sketch, you're on every aspect of the sketch. You're on the set design. You know, there's obviously set design, everybody that works on it, but you're telling them, you're directing them in every single kind of way. You're telling the director what kind of shots you want. You're a part of it. You know, it's a writer-driven show, and no other show is like that. You learn how to do the show so much faster than any other show because you have to. You know, like you're being exposed to so much. You realize, oh, there's a lot of reasons why a sketch doesn't get a laugh. The joke could be perfectly written, but maybe the shot's wrong. Maybe the set's wrong. Maybe you tipped it by showing this or whatever. Maybe you need this character here. Like, you need to really paint a world and make it work. For dress rehearsal, we're sitting watching the dress rehearsal show with Lauren. And he's telling us, what the fuck is this? What is this? Get this out of here. Why is that there? Like, he's giving you notes. And if it goes to air, before air, okay, we need this, you know. He's letting you know what's wrong with it, why it's not working, or what his thinking is. And then you correct it. Try to get it right. You got 2 shots at it, you know? So that kind of training, if you really care about making something good, you could learn a lot very quickly. You could carry that, too. It carries over, even in stand-up, because a lot of times motherfuckers are funny and they have no idea why. A lot of times jokes work and they have no idea why, and they don't even explore why. They just literally let the laughs land. So a motherfucker say something and gets a big laugh and like, well, that joke's finished. They don't even know why it's getting a laugh. They don't know what's setting it up. They don't know how to do it. Well, what if you want to do that joke longer? How do you get it to work even harder? How do you use it to close? How do you use it to put it in the middle? Like, there's a lot of things that are stand-up that if you really, really do stand-up, you know how to fucking work a joke because you know the joke better than just, oh, okay, this is where people laugh.
Like you said, the first sketch went, well, that's not funny anymore. I want to understand that kind of experience and what that pressure means. To be like, well, okay, well, this is funny. You know what? Head writer, this is hilarious, but it's also 2020, and that's not acceptable. Do you fight that battle?
Yeah, you do fight it. The other half of that is, this is the host show. So there'll be times where you could believe something's funny and stand on it and be like, this is a fucking good sketch and this is important and this will work and I know it's going to piss people off. But how you going to make Julia Roberts say that shit? You know what I'm saying? Or how you know what I mean? But also, some motherfucker might be like, look, I got a career, man. I can do Disney movies. I don't want to be in that sketch. So you got to pick your battles there. All right, this might not be good for you. We got to wait for somebody else. Like, fuck it. I got to wait for Bill Burr to host, so I got to wait. You know what I mean? So there's also that. It teaches you how to be a professional. It teaches you how to kind of put your ego to the side and realize that you're part of a production. Even though you're working hard and you're doing all this shit, but you're part of a team. This is not just a selfish, grandstanding thing. Weekend Update, I could scratch that itch because I could say something and it's on me. It's not necessarily the thoughts of the show. But on SNL, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. Maybe some of the cast members might be like, I don't want to do this shit. I think this is sexist. I think this is racist. I think this is homophobic. And you realize it's all about, you learn how to work with people is what I'm trying to say. And they keep you sharper because everybody's funny. So you learn that. That's the high wire act, I think, is kind of balancing all of that.
Is there a joke or a sketch that you wrote where everybody's like, no, that you got on? It was like, aha.
Oh, man, that I got on.
That's a tougher question.
That's a much tougher question. I don't know about, yeah, absolutely. I think that the vaccine sketch that I did on the Daniel Kaluuya show, that it wasn't everybody saying nah, it was more like, well, we got to get this right, you know? So it was kind of trying to make it feel right. No one considers that it's coming from a black perspective to black people. They think this is what white people think about black people because it's SNL. So like they take me and the cast and everybody out of the equation and saying this is some inside shit that we like. It's more like sometimes when black people see stuff that's black on SNL, they're like, well, this is white people making fun of black people. You know what I'm saying? They don't know that it's just me and like another black cast member just like laughing. Like, oh shit, wouldn't it be funny if, you know, and that's literally the extent of the thought, and we're trying to make each other laugh with it. It's more like, nah, this is the media trying to make niggas seem like, you know, it's always kind of that. You're always fighting that part of it. Right. No matter what it is. The sketch honestly came from me talking to my family about the vaccine, and them niggas like, nah, I ain't fucking with it. You know what I mean? Like, literally that. That's all it is. We've all had that conversation, but it's just like, that's all it came from. What if I gave you $1,000? Nah, fuck that. That's all it is. That's all it is. Right. But you listen to Dave talk about that too, and you know, I've heard Dave talk about that where he's doing his show, and then, you know, you hear the laughs are different for certain things, and you're like, wait a minute, maybe let me revisit how we tell this joke, because I think people are looking at this in a different way than I even intended.
You wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, somebody made him write it.
That's why they hired him, so that he could, it's always that. You know what I mean? Like, it's never just, I just thought this was funny, and boom. My goal is always, my white whale is always stand up. My goal is always to make people feel the way For What It's Worth made me feel, or the way Bring the Pain made me feel, or the way, you know what I'm saying, Richard Pryor live in concert made me feel. Like, that's always going to be the goal. Everything else that I get to do, I get to do. Any fucking movie, TV, whatever the fuck it is, it's like, oh man, that's dope that I'm getting to do this. But the number one, the fucking elephant in the room is elephant in the room. You know what I mean? Like, something that good. Maybe people are jealous sometimes. They're like, this motherfucker's on, it just gets everything. I get jealous of a motherfucker that has 2 years to just do stand-up and perfect an hour. That makes me go, oh, God, so you're just going to do stand-up every night, Louis? So, Louis, you just going to fucking work every day and tour the country constantly for a year and come back with something perfect? Yeah. You lucky bastard. Like, to me or Burr or whoever, like, that's the shit. Like, Dave does shows anywhere, everywhere, all the time. I'm like, God damn, that's all you do? It drives me nuts. It drives me insane how good they are.
Are you worried, or at least aware,
that I'm giving up my good years?
That you, well,
that I'm giving up the best of me?
That comfort might be the enemy of your ultimate goal.
Yeah, totally. You want me to quit now? What the fuck? Like, it's literally, it's become home in that way. Mm-hmm. It drives me crazy working on it and all that shit, but then you're also like, this is cool to get to do. You know what I mean? You feel some sort of responsibility towards helping the show. That it's like a motherfucker with a family. You're like, yeah, I got a dream, but also I got my family. I don't know what the fuck. You know what I mean? I got to come home. But for me, after a while, when I look on the horizon, when I'm in my dream, I'm on stage with a microphone and a stool and a drink, and I'm talking shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's always gonna be that's always gonna be the shit.
I'm just wondering if you ever have glanced up and realized that over these course of years, you've done more than your part.
No.
Vastly more than your share of shaping the culture.
No, you'll never, no. It's just hard to believe it, because once you're in it, you're just like, well, this ain't shit. And then if you take a step back, you're like, yo, I'm fucking having the time of my life. This is crazy. I have stories that will be on par with anybody in any room, in any bar, wherever the fuck.
Right.
You know, so I see that, and then you see it on me, I see it on you.
And in that, man, I'm just expressing to you that exact thing that you say I appreciate about you. And the world really does benefit from it. And that kid that wanted to be something special, that knew he was different and could do something that so few were able to do and do it well, that's the kid sitting across from me today. And he was right.
Nah, man.
He was right.
I really appreciate that. I don't know how right it is, but I appreciate it. I like to hear it.
Hailing from the main streets of New York City, standing at a solid 6
Michael Che.
To this day, Radio Rahim.
Till This Day is a Luminary original podcast. It's produced by Pilot Boy and Alex Casnoff for Salt Audio. Executive produced by Dave Chappelle and me, Radio Rahim. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my mom. You may know her as Dr. Rita Muhammad, without whom none of this is possible.
Original audio production, music and sound design by Salt. Executive produced by Pilot Boy. Executive produced by Noah Gersh, Jamie Schefman, Nick Panama, and Kenzi Wilbur. Creative producer, Alex Casnoff. Executive producer, Elliot O'Day. Head of production, Liz LeMay. Head of engineering, Jordan Galvan. Production manager, Allie Strobel. Post coordinator, Alice Bearn. Edited by Geoffrey Mutchnik. Mixed by Salt. Additional editing and sound design by Jasper Van Dijk and Noah Kowalski.